but I am determined to solve this issue.
These are the words that President Ranil Wickremesinghe said to a group of Tamil MPs at a discussion a few weeks ago. The meeting was ahead of an all-party conference on implementing the 13th Amendment to the Constitution as a possibly permanent solution to Sri Lanka's decades-long ethnic issue. President Wickremesinghe has made it clear that he wants to go ahead with the 13th Amendment, though with an asterisk. More on that later. Wickremesinghe has sought the views of all political parties that represent Parliament and is expected to address the House in the coming days. But what exactly is the 13th Amendment and why is it making headlines now in the middle of everything else that's going on? Let's go back in time a bit. In 1987, just 4 years after war had broken out between government forces and separatist Tamil militants, India signed an agreement with the government of then President J.R. Jayawardena. This agreement, called the Indo-Lanka Accord, would have lasting consequences. One outcome of the accord was an important and highly controversial constitutional amendment, specifically the 13th Amendment made to President Jayawardena's 1978 constitution. It was after this amendment that Sri Lanka got its provincial councils, which was, at least on paper, supposed to be a solution to the conflict raging in the north and east. Why was it controversial? In the late 80s, many in the south saw the Indo-Lanka Accord as a threat to Sri Lanka's sovereignty. As part of the agreement, government troops were to be withdrawn to their barracks, while Tamil militants were to surrender their arms. By this point, the Tamil Tigers had emerged as the dominant northern militant outfit, claiming to be the sole representatives of the Tamil people. The Tigers were not too keen on surrendering their weapons to the Indian Peacekeeping Force, or the IPKF, an Indian military contingent engaged in peacekeeping operations in the volatile north and east. In a matter of months, confrontations began between the Tigers and the IPKF, and Sinhala nationalists in the south also began to agitate for the IPKF's withdrawal from the country. The JVP and the Deshapremi Janata Vyapara, or DJV, were protesting what they called Indian expansionism. And even some powerful members of the government wanted the Indian troops, called Jawans, out of Sri Lanka. A full-blown Marxist insurgency followed, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, the accord came into effect and power was soon devolved to the provinces, but only up to a point. How does power sharing work? According to the amendment, the central government shares its purview on education, health, agriculture and housing with Sri Lanka's 9 provinces. It was also supposed to devolve land and police powers to the PCs, but crucially, this never happened. This is where that asterisk comes in. Nearly 40 years later and 14 years after the war ended, full implementation of the 13th Amendment is being discussed again at the highest levels of government. But with one snag: police powers. The President has said that he wishes to implement the 13th Amendment in full, but minus police powers. The Tamil National Alliance, or the TNA, is crying foul. They contend that devolution without police powers is not meaningful. The party is also insisting on holding provincial council elections, which have been delayed since 2018. India has also made its intentions clear. During President Wickremesinghe's recent visit to New Delhi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was emphatic that the 13th Amendment be implemented in full to ensure a life of dignity and respect for the Tamil community. Which brings us to that latest all-party conference. At this high-level meeting, Wickremesinghe said Sri Lanka must either retain provincial councils with power fully devolved or do away with the PC system altogether. For years, critics of the provincial council system have complained that it is a wasteful white elephant imposed on Sri Lanka by its powerful neighbour. The President himself has said the councils are a drain on state funds, though he is keen to implement the 13th Amendment. However, opinion is divided both in the north and the south, and arriving at a consensus remains a problem. Nationalist parties in the south continue to fear that further devolution of power would pave way to separatism. Some Tamil parties, on the other hand, say the 13th is not enough. The TNA said several times that it is for a federal solution but is ready to support a full implementation of the amendment, which they say is already part of the constitution and must therefore be implemented anyway. But sharing police powers remains a thorny issue. MP C.V. Vigneswaran, the former Chief Minister of the Northern Province, has said in his discussions with the President, limiting provincial police powers to traffic control, receiving complaints and other local policing matters without issuing weapons had come up. Meanwhile, the main opposition SJB and other opposition groups, including the TNA, are insisting that long-delayed elections to the provincial councils are held soon. The elections were delayed due to attempts to change the electoral system, and as a result, the councils have now effectively ceased to function. The JVP-led National People's Power boycotted the talks. And what happened after the president's speech in Parliament this week? With Sri Lanka still reeling from its worst ever economic crisis, some in the south now say that it's not the time to prioritize ethnic issues. President Wickremesinghe and others, however, beg to differ. They argue that the issue has dragged on long enough and there is no better time to resolve it, once and for all. Will Sri Lanka's political parties set aside their differences and finally come together to figure this out? We shall know soon enough.